Toucan, Toucan.
There once was a bird who didn't have a name. He had a very large beak and was all black, except for the whites of his eyes. All the other creatures who had names laughed at him. This made him very unhappy. One day, he decided to leave them all and go to seek his fortune. He went over the mountain, then across the river, until he came to a hot, dusty place where everybody worked. This made him want to work as well. So he went to see a man sitting behind a large desk who told him what to try. At first, he tried chopping wood, but his beak was so large that it always got in the way. Next, he tried office work, but he felt silly in a bowler hat. Finally, he tried carrying things. He enjoyed doing this and was very good at it. Most of the time, he carried cans. Because of his long beak, he could carry two at once. The others called him Toucan, as they could only carry one. He was happy. At last, he had a name. One day, when Toucan was carrying paint, instead of being content with two, he tried to carry 3 cans. Going down some steps, he fell and ended up with orange, red, and white paint all over him. Although he scrubbed and scrubbed, he could not get the paint off. He felt he was a failure. And one morning, before the city was awake, he left for home. He went back across the river, then back over the mountain. When at last he arrived home, none of the creatures recognized him in his fine new feathers. When they asked his name, he said it was Toucan. They spelled it Toucan. So he decided to keep it that way. Toucan explained who he was and told them about his adventures. When they heard the story, they all laughed again. But this time, Toucan laughed with them.
The Magic Finger by Roald Dahl. The farm next to ours is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Gregg. The Greggs have 2 children, both of them boys. Their names are Philip and William. Sometimes I go over to their farm to play with them. I am a girl, and I am 8 years old. Philip is also 8 years old. William is 3 years older. He is 10. What? Oh, all right then. He is 11. Last week, something very funny happened to the Gregg family. I am going to tell you about it as best I can. Now, the one thing that Mr. Gregg and his 2 boys loved to do more than anything else was to go hunting. Every Saturday morning they would take their guns and go off into the woods to look for animals and birds to shoot. Even Philip, who was only 8 years old, had a gun of his own. I can't stand hunting. I just can't stand it. It doesn't seem right to me that men and boys should kill animals just for the fun they get out of it. So I used to try to stop Philip and William from doing it. Every time I went over to their farm, I would do my best to talk them out of it, but they only laughed at me. I even said something about it once to Mr. Gregg, but he just walked on past me as if I weren't there. Then, one Saturday morning, I saw Philip and William coming out of the woods with their father, and they were carrying a lovely young deer. This made me so cross that I started shouting at them. The boys laughed and made faces at me, and Mr. Gregg told me to go home and mind my own P's and Q's. Well, that did it. I saw red, and before I was able to stop myself, I did something I never meant to do. I put the magic finger on them all. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I even put it on Mrs. Gregg, who wasn't there. I put it on the whole Gregg family. For months, I had been telling myself that I would never put the magic finger upon anyone again. Not after what happened to my teacher, old Mrs. Winter. Poor old Mrs. Winter. One day we were in class, and she was teaching us spelling. "Stand up," she said to me, "and spell cat." "That's an easy one," I said. "K-A-T." "You are a stupid little girl," Mrs. Winter said. "I am not a stupid little girl," I cried. "I am a very nice little girl." "Go and stand in the corner," Mrs. Winter said. Then I got cross, and I saw red, and I put the magic finger on Mrs. Winter good and strong, and almost at once, guess what? Whiskers began growing out of her face. They were long black whiskers, just like the ones you see on a cat, only much bigger, and how fast they grew. Before we had time to think, they were out to her ears. Of course, the whole class started screaming with laughter, and then Mrs. Winter said, "Will you be so kind as to tell me what you find so madly funny, all of you?" And when she turned around to write something on the blackboard, we saw that she had grown a tail as well. It was a huge, bushy tail. I can't begin to tell you what happened after that. But if any of you are wondering whether Mrs. Winter is quite all right again now, the answer is no, and she never will be. The magic finger is something I've been able to do all my life. I can't tell you just how I do it, because I don't even know myself. But it always happens when I get cross, when I see red. Then I get very, very hot all over. Then the tip of the forefinger of my right hand begins to tingle most terribly, and suddenly a sort of flash comes out of me, a quick flash, like something electric. It jumps out and touches the person who has made me cross. And after that, the magic finger is upon him or her, and things begin to happen. Well, the magic finger was now upon the whole of the Gregg family, and there was no taking it off again. I ran home and waited for things to happen. They happened fast. I shall now tell you what those things were. I got the whole story from Philip and William the next morning after it was all over. In the afternoon of the very same day that I put the magic finger on the Gregg family, Mr. Gregg and Philip and William went out hunting once again. This time they were going after wild ducks, so they headed towards the lake. In the first hour, they got 10 birds. In the next hour, they got another 6. "What a day!" cried Mr. Gregg. "This is the best yet." He was beside himself with joy. Just then, 4 more wild ducks flew over their heads. They were flying very low. They were easy to hit. Bang, 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 went the guns. The ducks flew on. "We missed," said Mr. Gregg. "That's funny." Then, to everyone's surprise, the 4 ducks turned around and came flying right back to the guns.
"Hey,"
said Mr. Gregg.
"what on earth are they doing? They're really asking for it this time."
He shot at them again. So did the boys. And again they all missed. Mr. Gregg got very red in the face.
"It's the light. It's getting too dark to see. Let's go home."
So they started for home, carrying with them the 16 birds they had shot before. But the 4 ducks would not leave them alone. They now began flying around and around the hunters as they walked away. Mr. Gregg didn't like it one bit.
"Be off!"
he cried, and he shot at them many more times, but it was no good. He simply could not hit them. All the way home, those 4 ducks flew around in the sky above their heads, and nothing would make them go away. Late that night, after Philip and William had gone to bed, Mr. Gregg went outside to get some wood for the fire. He was crossing the yard when all at once he heard the call of a wild duck in the sky. He stopped and looked up. The night was very still. There was a thin yellow moon over the trees on the hill, and the sky was filled with stars. Then Mr. Gregg heard the noise of wings flying low over his head, and he saw the 4 ducks, dark against the night sky, flying very close together. They were going around and around the house. Mr. Gregg forgot about the firewood and hurried back indoors. He was now quite afraid. He didn't like what was going on, but he said nothing about it to Mrs. Gregg. All he said was, "Come on, let's go to bed. I feel tired." So they went to bed and to sleep. When morning came, Mr. Gregg was the first to wake up. He opened his eyes. He was about to put out a hand for his watch to see the time, but his hand wouldn't come out.
"That's funny. Where's my hand?"
He lay still, wondering what was up. Maybe he had hurt his hand in some way. He tried the other hand. That wouldn't come out either. He sat up. Then, for the first time, he saw what he looked like. He gave a yell and jumped out of bed. Mrs. Gregg woke up, and when she saw Mr. Gregg standing there on the floor, she gave a yell too, for he was now a tiny little man. He was maybe as tall as the seat of a chair, but no taller. And where his arms had been, he had a pair of duck's wings instead. "But," cried Mrs. Gregg, going purple in the face. "My dear man, what's happened to you?"
"What's happened to both of us, you mean?"
shouted Mr. Gregg. It was now Mrs. Gregg's turn to jump out of bed. She ran to look at herself in the glass, but she was not tall enough to see into it. She was even smaller than Mr. Gregg, and she too had got wings instead of arms. Oh, sobbed Mrs. Gregg.
"This must be witches' work,"
cried Mr. Gregg. And both of them started running around the room, flapping their wings. A minute later, Philip and William burst in. The same thing had happened to them. They had wings and no arms, and they were really tiny. They were about as big as robins. "Mamma, Mamma, Mamma," chirruped Philip. "Look, Mamma, we can fly!" And they flew up into the air. "Calm down at once," said Mrs. Gregg.
You're much too high." But before she could say another word, Philip and William had flown right out of the window. Mr. and Mrs. Gregg ran to the window and looked out. The two boys were now high up in the sky. Then Mrs. Gregg said to Mr. Gregg, "Do you think we could do that, my dear?" "I don't see why not," Mr. Gregg said. "Come on, let's try." Mr. Gregg began to flap his wings hard, and all at once, up he went. Then Mrs. Gregg did the same. "Help!" she cried as she started going up. "Save me!" "Come on," said Mr. Gregg. "Don't be afraid." So out of the window they flew far up into the sky, and it didn't take them long to catch up with Philip and William. Soon the whole family was flying around and around together. "Oh, isn't it lovely?" cried William. "I've always wanted to know what it feels like to be a bird." "Your wings are not getting tired, are they, dear?" Mr. Gregg asked Mrs. Gregg. "Not at all. I could go on forever." "Hey, look down there," said Philip. "Somebody is walking in our garden." They all looked down, and there below them, in their own garden, they saw 4 enormous wild ducks. The ducks were as big as men, and what is more, they had great long arms like men instead of wings. The ducks were walking in a line to the door of the Greggs' house, swinging their arms and holding their beaks high in the air. "Stop!" called the tiny Mr. Gregg, flying down low over their heads. "Go away! This is my house!" The ducks looked up and quacked. The first one put out a hand and opened the door of the house and went in. The others went in after him. The door shut. The Greggs flew down and sat on the wall near the door. Mrs. Gregg began to cry. "Oh dear, oh dear, they've taken our house. What shall we do? We have no place to go." Even the boys began to cry a bit now. "We will be eaten by cats and foxes in the night," said Philip. "I want to sleep in my own bed," said William. "Now then, it isn't any good crying. That won't help us. Shall I tell you what we are going to do?" "What?" they said. Mr. Gregg looked at them and smiled. "We are going to build a nest." "A nest?" they said. "Can we do that?" "We must do it. We've got to have somewhere to sleep. Follow me." They all flew off to a tall tree, and right at the top of it, Mr. Gregg chose the place for the nest. "Now we want sticks, lots and lots of little sticks. Off you go, all of you, and find them and bring them back here." "But we have no hands," said Philip. "Then use your mouths." Mrs. Gregg and the children flew off. Soon they were back, carrying sticks in their mouths. Mr. Gregg took the sticks and started to build the nest. "More! I want more and more sticks. Keep going." The nest began to grow. Mr. Gregg was very good at making the sticks stick together. After a while he said, "That's enough sticks. Now I want leaves and feathers and things like that to make the inside nice and soft." The building of the nest went on and on. It took a long time, but at last it was finished. "Try it," said Mr. Gregg, hopping back. He was very pleased with his work. "Oh, isn't it lovely?" cried Mrs. Gregg, going into it and sitting down. "I feel I might lay an egg any moment." The others all got in beside her. "How warm it is," said William. "And what fun to be living so high up," said Philip. "We may be small, but nobody can hurt us up here." "But what about food?" said Mrs. Gregg. "We haven't had a thing to eat all day." "That's right. So we will now fly back to the house and go in by an open window and get the tin of biscuits when the ducks aren't looking." "Oh, we'll be pecked to bits by those dirty great ducks," cried Mrs. Gregg. "We shall be very careful, my love," said Mr. Gregg, and off they went. But when they got to the house, they found all the windows and doors closed. There was no way in. "Just look at that beastly duck cooking at my stove," cried Mrs. Gregg as she flew past the kitchen window. "How dare she?" And look at that one holding my lovely gun, shouted Mr. Gregg. One of them is lying in my bed, yelled William, looking into a top window. And one of them is playing with my electric train, cried Philip. Oh, dear, said Mrs. Gregg. They've taken over our whole house. We shall never get it back, and what are we going to eat? I will not eat worms, said Philip. I would rather die. Or slugs, said William. Mrs. Gregg took the two boys under her wings and hugged them. Don't worry. I can mince it all up very fine, and you won't even know the difference. Lovely slug burgers, delicious worm burgers. No, cried William. Never, said Philip. Disgusting, said Mr. Gregg. Just because we have wings, we don't have to eat bird food. We shall eat apples instead. Our trees are full of them. Come on. So they flew off to an apple tree. But to eat an apple without holding it in your hands is not at all easy. Every time you try to get your teeth into it, it just pushes away. In the end, they were able to get a few small bites each. And then it began to get dark. So they all flew back to the nest and lay down to sleep. It must have been about this time that I, back in my own house, picked up the telephone and tried to call Philip. I wanted to see if the family was all right. Hello, I said. Said a voice at the other end. Who is it? I asked. Philip, is that you? Oh, stop it, I said. Then there came a very funny noise. It was like a bird laughing. I put down the telephone quickly. Oh, that magic finger! What has it done to my friends? That night, while Mr. and Mrs. Gregg and Philip and William were trying to get some sleep up in the high nest, a great wind began to blow. The tree rocked from side to side, and everyone, even Mr. Gregg, was afraid that the nest would fall down. Then came the rain. It rained and rained, and the water ran into the nest, and they all got as wet as could be, and oh, it was a bad, bad night. At last the morning came, and with it the warm sun. Well, said Mrs. Gregg, thank goodness that's over. I never want to sleep in a nest again. She got up and looked over the side. Help! She cried. Look down there. What is it, my love? Said Mr. Gregg. He stood up and peeked over the side. He got the surprise of his life. On the ground below them stood the 4 enormous ducks, as tall as men, and 3 of them were holding guns in their hands. One had Mr. Gregg's gun, one had Philip's gun, and one had William's gun. The guns were all pointing right up at the nest. No, called out Mr. and Mrs. Gregg both together. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Please don't shoot!
Why not?
Said one of the ducks. It was the one who wasn't holding a gun.
You are always shooting at us.
Oh, but that's not the same. We are allowed to shoot ducks.
Who allows you?
Asked the duck. Well, we allow each other, said Mr. Gregg.
Very nice,
said the duck.
And now we are going to allow each other to shoot you.
I would love to have seen Mr. Gregg's face just then. Oh, please, cried Mrs. Gregg. My 2 little children are up here with us. You wouldn't shoot my children.
Yesterday you shot my children. You shot all 6 of my children.
I'll never do it again, cried Mr. Gregg. Never, never, never.
Do you really mean that?
Asked the duck. I do mean it. I'll never shoot another duck as long as I live.
That is not good enough. What about deer?
Well, I'll do anything you say if you'll only put down those guns. I'll never shoot another duck or another deer or anything else again.
Will you give me your word on that?
Said the duck. I will, said Mr. Gregg.
Will you throw away your guns?
asked the duck. I will break them into tiny bits, and never again need you be afraid of me or my family.
Very well. You may now come down. And by the way, may I congratulate you on the nest? For a first effort, it's pretty good.
Mr. and Mrs. Gregg and Philip and William hopped out of the nest and flew down. Then all at once, everything went black before their eyes and they couldn't see. At the same time, a funny feeling came over them all, and they heard a great wind blowing in their ears. Then the black that was before their eyes turned to blue, to green, to red, and then to gold, and suddenly there they were, standing in lovely bright sunshine in their own garden near their own house. And everything was back to normal once again.
Our wings have gone, cried Mr. Gregg, and our arms have come back. And, we're not tiny any more, laughed Mrs. Gregg. Oh, I'm so glad. Philip and William began dancing about with joy. Then, high above their heads, they heard the call of a wild duck. They all looked up, and they saw the 4 birds, lovely against the blue sky, flying very close together, heading back towards the lake in the woods. It must have been about half an hour later that I myself walked into the Greggs' garden. I had come to see how things were going, and I must admit I was expecting the worst. At the gate, I stopped and stared. It was a queer sight. In one corner, Mr. Gregg was smashing all the guns into tiny pieces with a huge hammer. In another corner, Mrs. Gregg was placing beautiful flowers upon 16 tiny mounds of soil, which I learned later were the graves of the ducks that had been shot the day before. And in the middle of the yard stood Philip and William with a sack of their father's best barley beside them. They were surrounded by ducks, doves, pigeons, sparrows, robins and larks and many other kinds that I didn't know, and the birds were eating the barley that the boys were scattering by the handful. "Good morning, Mr. Gregg," I said. Mr. Gregg lowered his hammer and looked at me. My name is not Gregg any more, he said. In honor of my feathered friends, I have changed it from Gregg to Egg.
And I am Mrs. Egg, said Mrs. Gregg. What happened? I asked. They seemed to have gone completely dotty, all 4 of them. Philip and William then began to tell me the whole story. When they had finished, William said, "Look, there's the nest. Can you see it? Right up in the top of the tree. That's where we all slept last night."
"I built it all myself," said Mr. Egg proudly. "Every stick of it."
"If you don't believe us," Mrs. Egg said, "just go into the house and take a look at the bathroom. It's a mess." "They filled the tub right up to the brim," Philip said. "They must have been swimming around in it all night, and feathers everywhere."
"Ducks like water," Mr. Egg said. "I'm glad they had a good time."
Just then, from somewhere over by the lake, there came a loud bang. "Someone's shooting," I cried.
"That'll be Jim Cooper," Mr. Egg said. "Him and his 3 boys, they're shooting mad. Those Coopers are the whole family."
Suddenly, I started to see red. Then I got very hot all over. Then the tip of my finger began tingling most terribly. I could feel the power building up and up inside me. I turned and started running towards the lake as fast as I could.
"Hey!"
shouted Mr. Egg.
"What's up? Where are you going?"
"To find the Coopers," I called back.
"But why?"
"You wait and see. They'll be nesting in the trees tonight, every one of them."
Roald Dahl's Dirty Beasts.
The Pig. In England once there lived a big and wonderfully clever pig. To everybody it was plain that Piggy had a massive brain. He worked out sums inside his head. There was no book he hadn't read. He knew what made an airplane fly. He knew how engines worked and why. He knew all this. But in the end, one question drove him round the bend. He simply couldn't puzzle out what life was really all about. What was the reason for his birth? Why was he placed upon this earth? His giant brain went round and round. Alas, no answer could be found, till suddenly one wondrous night, all in a flash he saw the light. He jumped up like a ballet dancer and yelled, "By gum, I've got the answer. They want my bacon, slice by slice, to sell at a tremendous price. They want my tender, juicy chops to put in all the butchers' shops. They want my pork to make a roast, and that's the part'll cost the most. They want my sausages in strings. They even want my chitterlings. The butcher's shop, the carving knife, that is the reason for my life." Such thoughts as these are not designed to give a pig great peace of mind. Next morning in comes Farmer Bland, a pail of pig swill in his hand, and Piggy with a mighty roar bashes the farmer to the floor. Now comes the rather grisly bit, so let's not make too much of it, except that you must understand that Piggy did eat Farmer Bland. He ate him up from head to toe, chewing the pieces nice and slow. It took an hour to reach the feet, because there was so much to eat. And when he'd finished, Pig, of course, felt absolutely no remorse. Slowly he scratched his brainy head, and with a little smile he said, "I had a fairly powerful hunch that he might have me for his lunch, and so, because I feared the worst, I thought I'd better eat him first."
The Lion. The lion just adores to eat a lot of red and tender meat. And if you ask the lion what is much the tenderest of the lot, he will not say a roast of lamb, or curried beef, or devilled ham, or crispy pork, or corned beef hash, or sausages, or mutton mash. Then could it be a big plump hen? He answers no. What is it then? "Oh, lion dear, could I not make you happy with a lovely steak? Could I entice you from your lair with rabbit pie or roasted hare?" The lion smiled and shook his head. He came up very close and said, "The meat I am about to chew is neither steak nor chops. It's you."
The Scorpion. You ought to thank your lucky star that here in England, where you are, you'll never find, or so it's said, a scorpion inside your bed. The scorpion's name is Sting-a-ling, a most repulsive, ugly thing, and I would never recommend that you should treat him as a friend. His scaly skin is black as black, with armour plate upon his back. Observe his scowling, murderous face, his wicked eyes, his lack of grace. Note well his long and crinkly tail, and when it starts to swish and flail, oh gosh, watch out, jump back, I say, and run till you're a mile away. The moment that his tail goes swish, he has but one determined wish. He wants to make a sudden jump and sting you hard upon your rump. What is the matter, darling child? Why do you look so tense and wild?
Oh, Mummy, underneath the sheet, there's something moving on my feet. Some horrid, creepy, crawly thing. Do you think it could be Sting-a-ling? What nonsense, child. You're teasing me. I'm not. It's reached my knee. It's going up my thigh. Oh, Mummy, catch it quickly. Try. It's on my bottom now. It's ow, 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 ow.
The Anteater. Some wealthy folks from USA, who lived near San Francisco Bay, possessed an only child called Roy, a plump and unattractive boy, half-baked, half-witted, and half-boiled, but, worst of all, most dreadfully spoiled. Whatever Roy desired each day, his father bought him right away. Toy motor cars, electric trains, the latest model aeroplanes, a colour television set, a saxophone, a clarinet, expensive teddy bears that talked, and animals that walked and squawked. That house contained sufficient toys to thrill 500,000 boys. As well as this, young Roy would choose 2 pairs a week of brand-new shoes. And now he stood there shouting, "What on earth is there I haven't got? How hard to think of something new. The choices are extremely few." Then added as he scratched his ear, "Hold it, I got a good idea. I think the next thing I must get should be a most peculiar pet, the kind that no one else has got. A giant anteater. Why not?" As soon as Father heard the news, he quickly wrote to all the zoos. "Dear sirs," he said, "my dear keepers, do any of you have anteaters?" They answered by return of mail, "Our anteaters are not for sale." Undaunted, Roy's fond parent hurled more messages across the world. He said, "I'll pay you through the nose if you can get me one of those." At last he found an Indian gent. He lived near Delhi in a tent, who said that he would sacrifice his pet for an enormous price. The price demanded, if you please, was 50,000 gold rupees. The anteater arrived half dead. It looked at Roy and softly said, "I'm famished. Do you think you could please give me just a little food? A crust of bread, a bit of meat. I haven't had a thing to eat in all the time I was at sea, for nobody looked after me." Roy shouted, No bread or meat. Go find some ants. They're what you eat." The starving creature crawled away. It searched the garden night and day. It hunted every inch of ground, but not one single ant it found. "Please give me food," the creature cried. "Go find an ant," the boy replied. By chance, upon that very day, Roy's father's sister came to stay, a foul old hag of 83, whose name, it seems, was Dorothy. She said to Roy, "Come, let us sit out in the sun and talk a bit." Roy said, "I don't believe you've met my new and most unusual pet." He pointed down among the stones, where something lay all skin and bones. "Anteater," he yelled. "Don't lie there yawning. This is my aunt. Come say good morning." Some people in the USA have trouble with the words they say. However hard they try, they can't pronounce a simple word, like aunt. Instead of aunt, they call it ant. Instead of can't, they call it can't. Roy yelled, "Come here, you so-and-so. My aunt would like to say hello." Slowly the creature raised its head. "Do you mean that that's an ant?" it said. "Of course," cried Roy. "Aunt Dorothy. This ant is over 83. The creature smiled. Its tummy rumbled. It licked its starving lips and mumbled, "A giant ant. By gosh, a winner. At last I'll get a decent dinner. No matter if it's 83. If that's an ant, then it's for me." Then, taking very careful aim, it pounced upon the startled dame. It grabbed her firmly by the hair and ate her up right then and there, murmuring as it chewed the feet, "The largest ant I'll ever eat." Meanwhile, our hero Roy had sped in terror to the potting shed and tried to make himself obscure behind a pile of horse manure. But Anteater came sneaking in. Already it was much less thin, and said to Roy, "You little squirt, I think I'll have you for dessert."
porcupine. Each Saturday I shout hooray, for that's my pocket money day, although it's clearly understood I only get it when I'm good. This week my parents had been told that I had been as good as gold, so after breakfast 50p my generous father gave to me. Like lightning down the road I ran until I reached the sweet shop man, and bought the chocolates of my dreams, a great big bag of raspberry creams. There is a secret place I know where I quite often like to go, beyond the wood, behind some rocks, a super place for guzzling chocks. When I arrived, I quickly found a comfy-looking little mound, quite clean and round and earthy brown, just right, I thought, for sitting down. Here I will sit all morning long and eat until my chocks are gone. I sat. I screamed. I jumped a foot. Would you believe that I had put that tender little rump of mine upon a giant porcupine? My backside seemed to catch on fire. 100 red-hot bits of wire, 100 prickles sticking in and puncturing my precious skin. I ran for home. I shouted, "Mum! Behold the prickles in my bum!" My mum, who always keeps her head, bent down to look, and then she said, "I personally am not about to try to pull those prickles out. I think a job like this requires the services of Mr. Myers." I shouted, "Not the dentist, no! Oh, Mum, why don't you have a go?" I begged her twice, I begged her thrice, but grown-ups never take advice. She said, "A dentist's very strong, he pulls things out the whole day long." She drove me quickly into town, and then they turned me upside down upon the awful dentist's chair, while 2 strong nurses held me there. Enter the dreaded Mr. Myers, waving a massive pair of pliers. "This is," he cried with obvious glee, "a new experience for me. Quite honestly, I can't pretend I've ever pulled things from this end." He started pulling one by one and yelling, "My, oh my, what fun!" I shouted, "Help!" I shouted, "Ow!" He said, "It's nearly over now. For heaven's sake, don't squirm about. Here goes. The last one's coming out." The dentist pulled, and out it came. And then I heard the man exclaim, "Let us now talk about the fees. That will be 50 guineas, please." My mother is a gutsy bird, and never one to mince a word. She cried, "By gosh, that's jolly steep." He answered, "No, it's very cheap. My dear woman, can't you see that if it hadn't been for me, this child could go another year with prickles sticking in her rear?" So that was that. Oh, what a day, and what a fuss. But by the way, I think I know why porcupines surround themselves with prickly spines. It is to stop some silly clown from squashing them by sitting down. Don't copy me. Don't be a twit. Be sure you look before you sit. The Cow. Please listen while I tell you now about a most fantastic cow. Miss Milky Daisy was her name, and when, aged 7 months, she came to live with us, she did her best to look the same as all the rest. But Daisy, as we all could see, had some kind of deformity, a funny sort of bumpy lump on either side above the rump. Now, not so very long ago, these bumpy lumps began to grow, and 3 or maybe 4 months later, I stood there an enthralled spectator. These bumpy lumps burst wide apart, and out there came, I cross my heart, of all the wondrous, marvellous things, a pair of gold and silver wings. A cow with wings, a flying cow. I'd never seen one up to now. Oh, Daisy, dear, can this be true? She flapped her wings, and up she flew. Most gracefully she climbed up high. She fairly whizzed across the sky. You should have seen her dive and swoop. She even did a loop-the-loop. Of course, almost immediately her picture was on live TV, and millions came each day to stare at Milky Daisy in the air. They shouted, "Jeepers, creepers, wow, it really is a flying cow." They laughed and clapped and cheered and waved, and all of them were well behaved, except for one quite horrid man who'd travelled from Afghanistan. This fellow, standing in the crowd, raised up his voice and yelled aloud, "That silly cow! Hey, listen, Daisy, I think you're absolutely crazy." Unfortunately, Daisy heard quite clearly every single word. "By gosh," she cried, "what awful cheek! Who is this silly foreign freak?" She dived, and using all her power, she got to 60 miles an hour. "Bomb's gone!" she cried. "Take that!" she said, and dropped a cowpat on his head.
The Crocodile. No animal is half so vile as Crocky-Walk the crocodile. On Saturdays he likes to crunch 6 juicy children for his lunch, and he especially enjoys just 3 of each, 3 girls, 3 boys. He smears the boys, to make them hot, with mustard from the mustard pot, but mustard doesn't go with girls. It tastes all wrong with plaits and curls. With them what goes extremely well is butterscotch and caramel. It's such a super marvellous treat when boys are hot and girls are sweet. At least that's Crocky's point of view. He ought to know. He's had a few. That's all for now. It's time for bed. Lie down and rest your sleepy head. Shh! Listen. What is that I hear? Galumphing softly up the stair. Go lock the door and fetch my gun. Go on, child, hurry, quickly run. No, stop, stand back, he's coming in. Oh, look, that greasy, greenish skin, the shining teeth, the greedy smile. It's Crocky-Walk the crocodile.
The Tummy Beast.
One afternoon I said to Mummy, "Who is this person in my tummy? He must be small and very thin, or how could he have gotten in?" My mother said from where she sat, "It isn't nice to talk like that." "It's true," I cried. "I swear it, Mummy. There is a person in my tummy. He talks to me at night in bed. He's always asking to be fed. Throughout the day he screams at me, demanding sugar buns for tea. He tells me it is not a sin to go and raid the biscuit tin. I know quite well it's awfully wrong to guzzle food the whole day long, but really I can't help it, Mummy, not with this person in my tummy." "You horrid child," my mother cried. "Admit it right away, you've lied. You're simply trying to produce a silly, asinine excuse. You are the greedy, guzzling brat, and that is why you're always fat." I tried once more. "Believe me, Mummy, there is a person in my tummy." "I've had enough," my mother said. "You'd better go at once to bed." Just then, a nicely timed event delivered me from punishment. Deep in my tummy, something stirred, and then an awful noise was heard. A snorting, grumbling, grunting sound that made my tummy jump around. My darling mother nearly died. "My goodness, what was that?" she cried. At once the tummy voice came through. It shouted,
"Hey there, listen you. I'm getting hungry. I want eats. I want lots of chocks and sweets. Get me half a pound of nuts. Look snappy or I'll twist your guts."
"That's him," I cried. "He's in my tummy. So now do you believe me, Mummy?" But Mummy answered nothing more, for she had fainted on the floor.
The Toad and the Snail. I really am most awfully fond of playing in the lily pond. I take off shoes and socks and coat and paddle with my little boat. Now, yesterday, quite suddenly, a giant toad came up to me. This toad was easily as big as any fair-sized fattish pig. He smiled and said, "How do you do? Hello, good morning, how are you?" His face somehow reminded me of Mummy's sister Emily. The toad said, "Don't you think I'm fine? Admire these lovely legs of mine, and I am sure you've never seen a toad so gloriously green." I said, "So far as I can see, you look just like Aunt Emily." He said, "I bet Aunt Emily can't jump one half as high as me. Hop on my back, young friend," he cried. "I'll take you for a marvellous ride." As I got on, I thought, "Oh, blimey, oh, dearie me, how wet and slimy." "Sit further back," he said. "That's right. I'm going to jump, so hold on tight." He jumped. Oh, how he jumped. By gum, I thought my final hour had come. My wretched eardrums popped and fizzed. My eyeballs watered. Up we whizzed. I clung on tight. I shouted, "How much further are we going now?" Toad said, his face all wreathed in smiles, "With every jump, it's 50 miles." Quite literally, we jumped all over from Scotland to the cliffs of Dover. Above the cliffs we stopped for tea, and Toad said, gazing at the sea, "What do you say we take a chance and jump from England into France?" I said, "Oh dear, do you think we ought to? I'd hate to finish in the water." But toads, you'll find, don't give a wink for what we little children think. He didn't bother to reply. He jumped. You should have seen us fly. We simply soared across the sea, the marvellous Mr. Toad and me. Then down we came, and down, and landed in a funny town. We landed hard, in fact we bounced. "We're there, it's France," the Toad announced. He said, "You must admit it's grand to jump into a foreign land. No boats, no bicycles, no trains, no cars, no noisy aeroplanes." Just then we heard a fearful shout. "Oh, heavens above," the Toad cried out. I turned and saw a frightening sight. On every side, to left, to right, people were running down the road, running at me and Mr. Toad. And every person, man and wife, was brandishing a carving knife. It didn't take me very long to figure there was something wrong. And yet how could a small boy know, for nobody had told me so, that Frenchmen aren't like you or me. They do things very differently. They won't say yards, they call them meters. And they're the most peculiar eaters. A Frenchman frequently regales himself with half a dozen snails. The greedy ones will gulp a score of these foul brutes and ask for more. In many of the best hotels, the people also eat the shells. Imagine that. My stomach turns. One might as well eat slugs or worms. But wait. Read on a little bit. You haven't heard the half of it. These French go even more agog if someone offers them a frog. You'd better fetch a basin quick in case you're going to be sick. The bits of frog they like to eat are thighs and calves and toes and feet. The French will gobble loads and loads of legs they chop off frogs and toads. They think it's absolutely ripping to guzzle frogs' legs fried in dripping. That's why the whole town and their wives were rushing us with carving knives. They screamed in French, "Well, I'll be blowed. What legs there are upon that toad. Chop them, skin them, cook them, fry them. All of us are going to try them." "Toad," I cried, "I'm not a funk, but ought we not to do a bunk? These rascals haven't come to greet you. All they want to do is eat you." Toad turned his head and looked at me and said, as cool could be, "Calm down and listen carefully, please. I often come to France to tease these crazy French who long to eat my lovely tender froggy meat. I am a magic toad," he cried, "and I don't ever have to hide. Stay where you are, don't move," he said, and pressed a button on his head. At once there came a blinding flash, and then the most almighty crash, and sparks were bursting all around, and smoke was rising from the ground. When all the smoke had cleared away, the Frenchmen with their knives cried, "Hey, where is the toad? Where has he gone?" You see, I now was sitting on a wonderfully enormous snail. His shell was smooth and brown and pale, and I was so high off the ground that I could see for miles around. The snail said, "Hello, greetings, hail. I was a toad, now I'm a snail." I had to change the way I looked to save myself from being cooked. "Oh, snail," I said, "I'm not so sure. I think they're starting up once more." The French were shouting, "What a snail! Oh, what a monster! What a whale! He makes the toad look teachy small. There's lovely snail meat for us all. We'll bake the creature in his shell and ring aloud the dinner bell. Get garlic, parsley, butter, spices. We'll cut him into 50 slices. Come sharpen up your carving knives. This is the banquet of our lives. I murmured through my quivering lips, "Oh, snail, I think we've had our chips." The snail replied, "I disagree. These greedy French, they'll not eat me." But on they came. They screamed, "Yahoo! Surround the brute and run him through!" Good gracious, I could almost feel the pointed blades, the shining steel. But Snail was cool as cool could be. He turned his head and winked at me, and murmured, "Au revoir, farewell," and pulled a lever on his shell. I looked around. The snail had gone. And now who was I sitting on? Oh, what relief, what joy! Because at last I'd found a friend. It was the gorgeous, glamorous, absurd, enchanting roly-poly bird. He turned and whispered in my ear, "Well, fancy seeing you, my dear." Then up he went in glorious flight. I clutched his neck and hung on tight. We fairly raced across the sky, the roly-poly bird and I, and landed safely just beyond the fringes of the lily pond. When I got home, I never told a solitary single soul what I had done or where I'd been, or any of the things I'd seen. I did not even say I rode upon a giant jumping toad, because if I had, I knew that they would not believe me anyway. But you and I know well it's true. We know I jumped. We know I flew. We're sure it all took place, although not one of us will ever know. We'll never understand why children go to Wonderland.
The Hill and the Rock. Mr. and Mrs. Quest lived in a little house on the very top of a hill, the only hill in that part of the country. Because it was the only hill, there were lots of visitors.
Oh, look over there, look, you can see them.
The views were wonderful.
You can see for miles and miles and miles. Look.
Oh, it's absolutely breathtaking. Getting to the top of the hill was a bit hard for the visitors. But going home was easy. Come on! Everyone said it was a perfect place to live.
Nice, no, that was marvellous. Thank you. No, it was well worth it. Yes, a bit of a trek up, but no, we enjoyed it, really. Thank you.
It would be perfect, said Mrs. Quest to her husband, if it wasn't for the rock. The rock stood at the back of the house and blocked half of the view from the kitchen window.
It is perfect,
said Mr. Quest.
Half of our view is better than the whole of anyone else's view. Besides,
said Mr. Quest,
I can climb to the top of the rock and see even further.
But Mrs. Quest kept on about the rock. You can go to work, but I have to stay and look at that rock. Or, I spend a lot of time in that kitchen. And often just, it's a pity about the rock. Eventually, one night, Mr. Quest said,
I'll see about it tomorrow.
And Mrs. Quest was happy. The next day, Mr. Quest dug away the ground outside the rock. Then he pushed it from the other side. The rock rolled all the way to the bottom of the hill.
Hurrah!
Cheered Mr. Quest. Mrs. Quest was delighted now she had a full view from the kitchen window. But that night she said, "What's that funny hissing sound?" Her husband, who was tired out from his hard work, was already fast asleep. The following night it was Mr. Quest who said,
What's that funny hissing sound?
"I don't know," said Mrs. Quest, "but I heard it last night as well." The day after that, Mr. Quest thought it seemed easier going home from work. When he arrived home, he found his wife crying. "The hill is going down," she sobbed. "The hissing is the air in the hill escaping from the hole where the rock was." Sure enough, day after day, night after night, the hill went down until one day it was gone altogether,
Now we're just the same as everyone else.
said Mr. Quest. Well, I don't know what the fuss was. Visitors still came out of curiosity, but they didn't stay long. There was nothing to see,
Nice day.
they would say, and go on their way. Poor Mrs. Quest. Without the hill, there wasn't any view, except from the kitchen window where she could still see the rock in the distance. And the hissing still did not stop. Day and night, night and day, the house still kept going down until it was at the bottom of a valley. Visitors came, for after all, it was the only valley in that part of the country, and it was easy to get there. They didn't stay long. The side of a valley isn't much of a view, and it was hard work to go home.
I think my back's gone.
One night, a new noise frightened Mr. and Mrs. Quest. A terrible rumbling and a crash. Mr. Quest peeped out from under the bedclothes and then went to see what was happening. In the dark, he could not see a thing. He bolted the door, hurried back to bed, and hid under the covers again. In the morning, Mr. Quest looked carefully outside.
It's the rock.
He shouted to Mrs. Quest.
It's rolled down the valley and back into the hole.
"Oh, no, it's worse than before," said Mrs. Quest. "Now it covers the whole of the kitchen window,"
Never mind.
said Mr. Quest.
I have an idea.
For the rest of the day, he worked at the back of the rock. When he had finished, he had painted a picture on the rock.
Now at least the kitchen has a view.
He said. Mrs. Quest was pleased. "And the hissing has stopped," she said. Now that the air couldn't escape, the house started to rise again. Day and night, the valley gradually disappeared. The house continued to rise until finally the hill was back in its old place.
Come on, keep going.
Once again, the visitors began to trek up the only hill in that part of the country.
lucky.
they said to Mrs. Quest.
It's a perfect place to live with such wonderful views.
Perfect, agreed Mrs. Quest. And my favourite view is the one from the kitchen window. Come and see.
Thank you.